Is this on? Yeah, there we go. We have a special treat today. JC and Linda Enlow are with us with 21st Century Global Missions, and they will be speaking to us this morning on the workings of that and everything that's going on, and just give you some insight on that great work that we support. So, JC, go ahead.
Thank you. Am I on? Yes, thank you. Brethren, thank you for all that you do in support of mission efforts. I know we're not the only one that you support. I don't have any idea really who you support, but I know one thing. We thank you for your prayers and financial support in helping us train preachers and teachers of the gospel of Christ. And when we go through this presentation, I want you to realize that we don't oversee any churches. All we're doing with Global Missions is trying to train preachers and teachers in their culture and language and in their country. This morning you're going to see that we've graduated over 900 and something preachers and teachers in the last 9 years. I thank God I can stand here before you and tell you, to my knowledge, not a single one of them is on American money. We believe that's keeping the gospel in its culture and in its country when we say that. Let me get started, and I hope to get through now in time for you to ask questions. So I'm going to give you a period of time to be thinking as we go through about a question. Over on the extreme left is Brother Steve Shapley. Steve works with us part-time out of the home office. He preaches for the Beans Ferry congregation about a mile below our office building. We're thankful his brethren will agree to let him work with us part-time. Sister Phyllis Bush, she worships with the Saucer Creek congregation right in the northern end of our county. We thank God for her. She was working with the junior college and retired. And Miss Phyllis came and started working with us. She was working with the financial end there as a secretary to junior college, ICC. And the Lord knew we needed that lady in our work, and she does an excellent work. Miss Linda, someone asked me this morning if I knew that lady or how long I'd been knowing her. I've been knowing her 64 years this December. And I know her about as well as she knows me. It's hard for us to think, you know. We can read each other's mind, even of what we're thinking many times. Over on the extreme right is Brother Donald Robertson. Miss Linda and I have known Donald since he was about 14 years of age. In 1984, we moved to Ashland, and I was with the church there about 7 years before going back to Florence and working with the school there, where I'd graduated at International Bible College. We got to see Donald. He had just obeyed the gospel a few months before we arrived, but we got to see Donald grow in the grace and knowledge of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I like the emphasis of our lesson this morning. It's all about the gospel, isn't it? And what God did with His Son. You see, He did something with His Son on the cross that had never took place. He came from God to the Virgin Mary. And on the cross, God broke His relationship with Him and covered Him with our sin to make Him be a propitiation, appease the mind of God to where He can accept us. Isn't that a beautiful story of God's love? Not my love, but God's love for us. We got to see Donald grow in grace and knowledge. He even went off to Magnolia Bible College and preached the gospel of Christ. And he's a good gospel preacher. Here's our mission statement. Here's why global missions exist. Would it be all right if I took my coat off and gave it to my wife? I'm getting hot up here. We exist for the purpose of recruiting, educating, and encouraging communicators of the gospel, and we stress in their language, culture, and country. I could spend the rest of my time talking about and showing you the need to train them in their culture and in their country and in their language. Time won't prevail for that, but that's our case statement. All schools established by Global Missions uses the same curriculum, Old and New Testament. In that curriculum, we have some secular classes, and they're there for a purpose. The purpose of them being there is to help that preacher be a better provider for his family. Remember, I said we don't pay the students to come to school. When they graduate, they're not, to my knowledge, on American money. I'm not saying one wouldn't be, because we have teachers from the States who go over and love to put them on money sometimes. We discourage that. Who decides here in this congregation at Bella Vista how much the preacher is paid? Who? And they listen to you as a congregation, do they not? Yes. But you as a congregation decides how much the preacher is paid. Doesn't a congregation in a foreign country deserve that same privilege? What's the average salary of the common person? I'm talking about the medium range in Liberia. Can anyone tell me? Would you like to guess? See, I got your attention, hadn't I? Would you believe $46 a month? Not a week, but a month. That's the average salary. You give a preacher $100, that's usually the going price for Americans. And you double him what the average person in the congregation where he preaches is getting on a monthly basis. Those classes are to help that preacher get a better job, because, see, we encourage him to keep his job, learn to preach and still work and provide. Paul gave us that example through tent making. Thus, we don't pay students to come to school. They're investing in their training. When they are out, their gas, their time, and their effort to get to class. Now, because of brethren like Bella Vista helping us, we give them a full scholarship. Not a single one of the preachers that's ever been trained and graduated ever paid us a penny for their training. There's the schools we have. That should be 23 schools, because Donald traveled to Liberia and established a fourth school in that country, and Lord willing, keep us in your prayers. I'll be going to Sierra Leone October the 21st to establish a fourth school in the country of Sierra Leone. We have 3 students that graduated from the Bow School who's out in a far area where church is not populated that much. But we've got about 20 students that wants to be trained from that area, and Lord willing, we're going to establish a school and train them. Now, I've given to Tracy, he's my contact person. Where's Tracy's? Yeah, right over here. I've given him the map and all the details that you'll see here this morning. A copy for the elders, copy for the missions team. Ask them, and they have permission to get to you whatever you'd like to have of that. Here's the graduation in Gorbally, Liberia. 2023, 18 students graduated. There's Donald and one of the teachers there. There's Donald and Maxwell Weed. Maxwell directs those schools for us. We're very thankful. Now, those 18 graduates, I believe I showed this. That should be, this is in Gorbally, though I'm mistaken. 18 graduates in Gorbally. They established 16 congregations while they were in training. Now, brethren, that's from the first class. Some of these are 4-year students, from the first class to the last class. During their training, they established 16 congregations. And when I say that, don't think of building buildings. You got a great facility. But aren't we thankful that the Lord didn't determine you had to have a facility to get under in order to worship Him? I have worshiped one of the most meaningful worship services that I've ever participated in was under a big shade tree about 4 or 5 miles out of Gorbley. It is in the jungle. No building. I know they met there every Sunday because they had poured a little concrete foundation, had about 2 or 3 blocks high and a big old thick timber, about 7 or 8 inches in thickness, about 18 inches wide. Thank God for you padded pews. I enjoyed them this morning, but you don't have to have padded pews to worship God. One of the most meaningful worship services. They had 2 songbooks among about 26 of us. I couldn't wait till they served the Lord's Supper. They had a table there just out on open ground there with a big old white sheet over it, tablecloth. They had the little brown wheat bread, unleavened. I'd been used to having white, but it was brown. Aren't we thankful God didn't say it had to be white? When they served the Lord's Supper, they had a big old shoebox lid. I kid, brethren, and say he had to have at least a 14 or 15 size shoe. But that box was about that long and about that wide. Someone had took a little knife. I took it and cut out a little. I was surprised, brethren, they had the little communion cup, the little plastic cup. And that's what they served the Lord's Supper in. 16 congregations, 450 baptisms in the last 12 months of their training, and 264 prayers and restorations. Now we're coming to Lofa County. Last year I had a bad number. We thank Brother Stephen Ashcroft for coming to our office and letting us be aware that we had included some denominational preachers in the statistics that we got. And brethren, we'll train those preachers. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. 2 of them has been converted, and what comes along when the preacher's converted? Most of the brethren, when they start hearing the truth of the gospel, will respond according to their faith and trust in the truth of the gospel that's preached. Remember the atoning death? There's only one baptism, and that's the right one that cuts the heart of sinners to see the need to obey from the heart the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And most of them do that when he starts preaching the truth. 5 graduated. 3 congregations established, 100 baptized in the last 12 months and 20 restorations. Now we're coming to Monrovia. I had gotten out of the hospital one day before leaving out of Memphis to Liberia. My little doctor, she is a little lady over in the Northeast Mississippi Medical Center there at Tupelo. She sort of tutored me a little bit before she dismissed me. She said, Mr. Enlow, she knew I was going to leave the country the next day. She said, if you was my daddy, you would not be going to Liberia. And I smiled at her and thanked her. But I didn't go to Lofa because that's a hard trip. It's an all-day trip from Monrovia out to Lofa County. There are some holes in that road. You can't pass it when it's during the rainy season. And about 3 or 4 weeks before it'll dry up to where you can travel it. There's some holes in that road that you can bury an 18-wheeler, and you're standing about from here to the parking lot, and you won't even see the trailer or the tractor that's in that road. I let Donald take care of that, but I stayed in Monrovia. I worked the Monrovia. That's a good place. I didn't travel very far. Brother receiving his diploma, they really turn out for those graduations. They support those brethren. 11 graduated, 15 churches established while they were in training, 56 baptized in the last 12 months, and 16 restorations and prayer requests. Now we're coming to Berminda, Cameroon. This was in August. 9 graduated. Brethren, this was our first graduating class in about 4 years because of the upheaval of their government there. Our director of the school was just shot. Didn't kill him, and he still directs, and he overcome it, but he was shot standing out on his porch just by someone going by. That's the danger in some of these places. 9 graduated, 4 congregations established, 54 baptisms, and 34 restorations in the last 12 months. San Cristobal, Mexico. Brother Guy Stanley there in the middle on the front. He's from the Main Street Church in Springfield, Tennessee. Guy enjoys going to those Spanish-speaking countries. I don't know why he doesn't speak Spanish, but he does. And we let him go every opportunity that he wants to go. There he's presenting a diploma to the brother. Another one. Those 3 graduates did not establish any churches, but they baptized 32 souls into Christ in the last 12 months of their training, and 11 restorations and prayer requests. Now we're coming to Obudu, Nigeria. We're in the southern part of Nigeria. The Muslim uprisings and things usually happen in the north. So we're in a pretty good place in Nigeria. 20 graduated August of 23. We say we're training preachers and teachers. I noticed this morning you have the young folks Bible hour. Who was back there with them? There's one in here that was with them back there. Can you tell me who? Was there any ladies? I'll just get to the point. Were any ladies back there? I'm asking. Yes. My wife doesn't like for me to say this, but as I look out, most of us are on our way out. Train them well, because that's the future of the Bella Vista Church, brethren. Train them well. We need to train young ladies to be the best Bible class teachers of our children they can be. And if we don't do the training, someone out in the world will do the training. You can mark it down. They're going to be trained by someone. There's Prince Ugby. He's the director of the school. 20 graduated, 1 congregation established, 68 baptisms, and 8 restorations in the last 12 months. Guyana, South America. We had a graduation of 11 graduates. A lot of them ladies and a lot of them men there. It was a mixture. There's the brother speaking. Notice there's no congregations. The class before this one didn't have any congregations established. That threw me an alarm, because I thought the teachers were not emphasizing evangelism. I was wrong. I slipped off down to Guyana without calling. I just let him know that the day before that I was coming, and for him to meet me at the airport, our director. And I slipped in on him, and was I so surprised, brethren. I talked to the director and emphasized while I was there, and I taught the class the next day. I got there on Friday, taught the class on Saturday, and I emphasized evangelism. To my surprise, afterward I talked to the teachers and students, emphasizing evangelism. And Brother Wilbur, the director, he let me know quickly that so many Americans had come to Guyana in the past and established churches and left them till they're training preachers to man the pulpits that they have where churches are already established. If I just talked to him before going, my trip would not have, I would have probably stayed here. That was on me, but I wanted to go in and make sure they were emphasizing evangelism. And they still are, but they're still training preachers for the churches that they have established. We've got brethren that preach for 3 and 4 different congregations on a given Lord's Day. 15 baptisms and 91 restorations in the last 12 months. Ciudad Sandino, we're in Nicaragua. The Central Church in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, totally funds the 2 schools there in Nicaragua for us. I'm looking at my time. I want to give you some time now. Joel Bastamani. Anyone like to guess where Joel was trained? He's the director of the school. Searcy, Arkansas. You familiar with that? He received a master's in engineering. He works for a large company. But brethren, he also preaches the gospel of Christ and does an excellent work. And he directs the school also for us. That's Joel over on the left. Remember, we didn't pay those students to come to school. We always have a big dinner in their honor when they graduate. These are the graduates. Why would Global Missions want to be out the expense of having a big dinner when they've already graduated? Let me share the purpose of that. Those students go out establishing churches, baptizing folks into Christ, teaching them the gospel, the unique gospel. Where are we going to draw more students? We want those students we've trained to appreciate their training and the love for their training to where they'll send us more students. You see, the gospel will reciprocate itself if we love the Lord and love our brethren. 14 graduated, 11 congregations established, 31 baptisms and 17 restorations in the last 12 months. Now we're going to Ciudad Sandino. 15 graduated. There's a young lady with her mom and dad. 16 graduated, 48 congregations established from those graduates while the men while they were in training. 99 baptisms and 44 restorations. We're coming to Peru. We have a school in Lima and also Trujillo. Brother Lance Foster, Memphis School of Preaching graduate. Lance is a good gospel preacher. He went to Lima and we had 8 to graduate. The director over on the extreme right, can you help me, Miss Linda? Thomas Farillo. He's our director there. He's not only the director of our school, but he's what we'd call, do you have a superintendent of education over your schools here in Arkansas? I'm asking, I don't know. Do you have a man over that? He's over the school, public school system in Lima, Peru. Very high up position, good gospel preacher, and also a good director for us in Lima. 8 graduated, 6 congregations established, 12 baptisms, 25 restorations in the last 12 months. December of 23 was in Trujillo. Lance is teaching a class there for the young folks. 11 graduated, 17 congregations established, 2 baptisms, and 39 restorations and prayer requests. And again, brethren, don't think of building buildings when I talk about those congregations. They'll get in a storefront. They'll be outside, and sometimes they do have buildings because Central Church out of Tuscaloosa has gone down and helped them. And they also help with that Trujillo school as well. Now we're coming back to Nigeria. This is our last graduation, I believe, last year. 11 graduated in Akot Uzin. That's in a very lower part of Nigeria. 11 graduated December the 20th. They established 10 congregations while they were in training. They had 90 baptisms in the last 12 months and 46 restorations and prayer requests. Now, brethren, I kid those preachers and teachers in Africa. Did you see where most of the churches established and baptisms are taking place? I told Jacob Cisse, the director in Freetown, Sierra Leone, I said, Jacob, we don't know what we're doing, but I do believe that you're helping train preachers and teachers that if things don't change, it probably won't happen in my lifetime, but in my children or grandchildren's lifetime or great-grandchildren, you'll be sending preachers from Africa to my country. Brethren, it hurts me to say that, but I believe that with all my heart because of where our country is headed. We took, this is the graduations last year, 23. There's where I'm coming to the totals. We graduated 137 preachers and teachers last year. They established 131 congregations while they were in training. They baptized 1,009 souls into Christ in the last 12 months of their training and had 615 restorations and prayer requests. Now I'm looking for in 2015 we graduated 58, 2016 41, 2017 131, 2018 85, 19 153, 20 96, 21 81, 22 159, 23 137 last year, for a total of 941 over the last 9 years that we've trained preachers and teachers. They established 1,279 congregations. And again, I stress, don't think of building buildings when I say that. They had 8,187 souls baptized into Christ, 5,286 restorations. Now, I gave Tracy a copy of what we've done this year thus far, but we have several graduations taking place in October, November, and December of this year. But you see Tracy, and he can make you a copy of that. And we say thank you. Now, whatever time I've got, did everyone get a newsletter? Raise your hand if you didn't get a newsletter. All right. I tell you what we'll do. Miss Linda will put some on the back. Go by. I got one here. Who was it? First one here raised their hand. Let me see another one. I saw another hand back here. What's your question? Anyone? Don't everyone raise their hand at the same time. Who was it back here? You'd scare me to death. All right, we need, yeah, thank you, brother. Thank you. You're a man after my own heart. I'll put you a little clicker back where I got it. This is your opportunity. I thank Tracy. Let me mention something about Stephen coming to her office and sharing with us. He let us be aware, and I went right over it and forgot it. He let us be aware that we had trained some Baptist preachers, and our fault was we had included it in the statistics. We should not have done that. Donald went back And out of those being trained, we found 5 that we knew were gospel preachers preaching for the Lord's body. Now, brethren, I'm proud to say we'll train a man if we have room in the classroom. If he's a Baptist preacher, we'll bring him in and train him. Because you see, that's how you convert people. If you convert the Baptist preacher, what comes along with him? The church where he's preaching. Most of those people will respond and obey from the heart the death, burial, and resurrection once they see that they're not forgiven of sins before doing that. Romans chapter 6, verse 17 and 18. Seeing ye have obeyed from the heart. Christianity is a heart religion. And that's the one baptism that puts me into a relationship of Jesus Christ because of His death, burial, and resurrection and His innocent blood. 2 of those preachers were converted, I understand, from Donald, and most all of the brethren that he had been preaching for come around and obeyed from the heart the baptism that put them into a relationship with Jesus. You know, in Africa, I wish our setting in America was like that of Africa. My first trip into Gorbli, Liberia, Brother Maxwell Wee was my contact. Brother David Underwood, one of my teachers at International Bible College, had spent about 3 years in Monrovia, Liberia. And that's where he met Maxwell and converted him and baptized him into Christ and taught him afterwards, and Maxwell is a good gospel preacher. He emphasizes the cross. He was my contact, and he wanted me to go out to Gorbli before starting a school in Monrovia. You know why? That was his homeland. That's where he had been born and lived most of his life. His heart was there. And once I saw his heart was there, there wasn't any need of me talking, because that's where he wanted to start the school. And I caved in and we started. They already had a block building for a church building there in Gorbli. And I told Maxwell, we talked about how to get started. I said, I'd like to meet with the preachers and church leaders on a Saturday, and then I'd stay over and worship with the brethren. He said, they'll want you to preach. I said, that'll be fine. But I want to teach a seminar for 4 days on the book of Romans. Start at 8 o'clock and go through with about a 15-minute break, about 10 or 10:15. And then I want to bring money for the ladies of the church to buy the food. And I want them to prepare the food to where you dare not let that many people go out for just a 1 hour's lunch. You want to have them back. And brethren, that doesn't mean they don't love the Lord. It's their culture, and you're not going to overcome their culture. So I took money and we bought food and fed them on the premise. That first Monday morning I had, I believe it was 83 or 84 or 85 brethren who came together. Right up on the front, they were 5 men with their Bibles and notebooks. And boy, at the evening, I gave them about 30 minutes to ask any question they wanted over the class we'd had morning and evening. I took the book of Romans and just looked at the scriptures. After about Wednesday, I noticed those 5 men there, and they are the ones who were asking good questions, brethren. And I met Maxwell and Brother Honda, the preacher, there at lunch, and I said, brethren, I've noticed these 5 men right on the front bench, and they're always asking good questions. And they looked at each other and smiled. And Maxwell said, JC, that's 5 Baptist preachers. What an opportunity. You have a seminar here. What's the chances of you getting 5 Baptist preachers right here on this front pew? They have a mentality that's different from ours, brethren, and I wish we had it. The truth will stand. God's Word, the firm foundation will stand. Christ and Him crucified will stand. Why should we be so scared? We have the truth of the gospel. We need to share it with whosoever will. That was the Lord's invitation. Whosoever will, let him come and drink of the water of life freely. And that should be our invitation. I make this point specifically for this purpose. I pleaded, I knew they understood the book of Romans. They understood the gospel. They understood how they could have a real, genuine relationship to Jesus through His atoning death, burial, and resurrection. But I was having to go. I pleaded with Maxwell and Brother Honda to be sure and stay in touch with those 5 Baptist preachers. 1 out of 5 was converted. I'm back there about a year and a half later, and I asked Maxwell about those Baptist preachers. He said, J.C., one of them was converted. I said, well, I was thinking pretty bad, because I said the gospel deserves more than 1 out of 5. He said, don't feel bad. He said, the other 4 understood the gospel. Said they were converted in the sense of knowing the truth. I said, well, what was their problem? He said, those 4 men were on American money. Are you listening, brethren? You see that the money was so strong in their culture to where they wouldn't give the money up for the gospel of Christ. And that's sad. That made me appreciate what we're doing more, because we don't get people on American money. It becomes a hindrance to the Lord's church so many times. I've done any questions? My time's up. Thank God for you. We thank you for all that you do for sharing a gospel with people around the world. Thank you, and God bless you.